Welcome to Never Rewrite. I'm Isaac Askew.
And I'm Jeffrey Sherman. And today, Isaac is going to work us through how he will try to convince you not to hire him or that you don't need him
Yeah.
if you call him up and try and hire him. So, the genesis of this is that recently Isaac had a call with a potential client,
Mm-hmm.
and we will be vague other than saying this is a woman who runs a small business with about 10 people.
Mm-hmm.
And she wanted to hire you to fix all of her scaling problems.
Mm-hmm.
So, how did you approach this? What would you ask her?
Yeah. Or I think originally this person reached out because they were looking to hire somebody full time,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they didn't realize that I had a consultancy on the side that does what they were looking for, which they were saying they ran into some scaling problems and they needed to fix them. And I told them, not looking for anything other than the consulting thing, but we can talk through your problem if you want.
Okay.
So I we had 15 minutes allocated to like run through all of our problems, so we had to kind of be very fast and abstract. So I don't have granular details to exactly everything, or even the end customer.
So, how did she describe her problem?
Yeah. So basically, it sounded like she has educational articles that are provided from a lot of thinkers across different industries,
Okay.
and customers can get access to those types of articles and knowledge bases.
Okay.
Um, so let's just go with that. Let's not dig too deep because I can't answer a lot of questions about like
Sure,
how they
sure.
make money.
She's got some kind
um,
of
yeah,
knowledge base that she sells access to.
essentially, yeah.
Subscription, right?
And it sounded like, for reasons unknown, because again we were going through it quickly, uh, they would, as different customers got sites created with different bits of access to these things, they would copy over all of the data in one. They were using WordPress. They would copy over all of the data and articles to a different site and
Hmm.
then disable all the articles that they didn't want to give this person access to. So if they had like hundreds of articles across a variety of industries, and one of their new customers only wanted access to tech or education or something, some genre of taxonomy of things, they would have to copy everything over, and they would go manually turn off the article from showing for every other article across every other industry until they're left with just the ones they cared about.
Okay.
Um,
Inefficient, but I could see how if you didn't have a lot of developers, that would be a way to
Totally
get
fine to
started
begin
without
with.
scaling.
Right, right. And so she's like, that's a bad way to do it. And she said, we have also this uh, process that runs that does the copying, and it breaks sometimes, and they don't know why. And I'm like,
Hmm.
okay. And so I'm just waiting for her to kind of outline different issues. Um, so yeah, the main thing is the manual disabling of everything after they copy things over. The idea of all this redundant copy data that exists in a few other places, and every time they change the like an article content on the top level, it automatically copies down to every other site and overwrites this other copy thing, because again they're copying it everywhere for all the customers. So when they make a
Okay. So they've
change to
got
the
some
top
kind
one,
of automated distribution.
propagation, yeah, so it can.
Do they
So
have to
that's like,
redisable the things?
I didn't ask that. That's a good question. I
All
don't, I
right.
don't I think it's just for that one article though.
Okay.
So redundant stuff they're copying everywhere that they're like, oh, this is sloppy. All the manual stuff of disabling them one by one, which they don't like, and then the thing that actually copies them breaks for reasons unknown to them and works most of the time.
Okay.
Um, so that they want to fix these issues. They want to understand, should they be copying the same data over and over again, or let it live in one place? Should we use WordPress because they got started with it? Now that it seems like they're kind of abusing the CRM or CMS
Yeah.
for this use case, that maybe they can find a different use case for it.
Hmm.
And just it's just bad practice. It just feels gross because they're like they're copying all this data over.
Yeah. I mean, I love they did something that doesn't scale to get started, and it's
Mm-hmm.
working well enough that now it matters to scale. I love those kind of customers.
Yeah,
Like they didn't get bogged down trying to write a CMS or
right.
anything
Yeah,
like that. They like, let's figure it out, and now that it's worthwhile, let's fix it. So what did you? It also doesn't sound like you would need a full time employee for that. That seems like
yeah,
a short term
interesting.
thing. But so what? So you got the whole description.
Hmm.
Um, where did you lead her, or where did you try to lead her? So once you
Right.
understood the problems at a high level.
Yeah, because of the pace in which she was asking, basically, here's the problems. What would you do? And I was like, because like there's a lot there. I don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I need to know customer facing problems at the end. I need to know not just like the internal tooling problems for like the manual disabling. Um, so I said, okay, well, I'm going to ask a couple of questions that I might not be able to answer you directly. The question just asked me of what I will do, but I'll tell you what I've done in similar things in companies that have had similar problems, essentially. So I kind of
Mm-hmm.
started with, what do you mean by you don't know why you have a thing that copies things over that sounds like the bread and butter, like you need that to work to start new sites for people and new
Mm-hmm.
customers. What do you mean like it doesn't work sometimes? And like, well, it sounds like it breaks, but they haven't done the investigation work to understand why, or they either have done the investigation work, but it never resulted why, like in a why, like they're still confused, like no one ever discovered why this bug is that way. So I said, well, first thing I would do is, if you haven't already, and she didn't tell me if she had or not, I would spend some time on trying to understand your current system, because if
Right.
you're, if they want to make a brand new thing and their current one doesn't work for whatever reasons, you should at least understand. If like, what if it's a memory constraint issue, and you build a new tool to do it and a new technology, but the constraint is maybe in the database somewhere or some other thing you're not
Mm-hmm.
thinking of that's actually dying. Like you should at least understand where that is, so you don't have a similar problem in this brand new pretty system that you're thinking, to design well.
Right. Yeah. If you're going to scale something, you either need to understand what it's doing so that you can build a better one,
Yeah,
or fix it and then scale what already exists.
yeah,
So
and
either
make
way,
sure you
you're
don't
pretty much
scale the bad part. Like you should understand why it can't scale, so you don't create the same problem in the new one, basically.
right. It could be
Yeah,
maybe it's, I don't know, basic. It's literally
yeah,
written in Visual Basic from 2000.
yeah.
And like there's a memory constraint, you're never going to fix it, and you need to use, I don't know,
Yeah,
Python or
but at least
something.
know why. I think that
Right. You need to know why. And maybe it's not fixable, maybe it is. Probably
so
is.
so that was my first one. She didn't. I forget why we didn't really go into that. I think I was just trying to spitball some ideas really
Mm-hmm.
fast because at the time we had a 15-minute block of let's go. Um, the other one I was asking about. Okay, we're copying over all these things, and she mentioned that they did have certain taxonomies already available. Like if they have all these different 200 articles or whatever across different categories, is there a way whenever you copy them that you can already go ahead and copy by taxonomy? So you don't really solve the problem of disabling everything manually, but now you just disable out of the 20 tech articles you copied, you only have to disable 2 of them instead of 180 of them.
Right.
You know, so it still have a sloppy problem of you're still copying redundant data and you still have to manually disable stuff, but you've reduced the amount of work. And so I kind of pitched that idea, and she was like, "Well, don't you think it's still sloppy that we do it that way?" And I'm like, "Sure,
Yeah.
yes, but like, is it sloppy enough to warrant re-architecting your system right now? Because that could take a year, maybe your area, your business changes in a year. Maybe the climate of whatever you're doing for customers changes." And I was thinking too, I didn't ask her this. I was going to do a follow up question about AI and like content stealing, that kind of stuff. Like, how are you changing your product? Is it going to be still valuable next year in the same way? Because those trends might tell you, oh, I should probably duct tape this because I'm not certain about the future. And if you spend a year to a half a year or vice versa to build something new, it would really suck if you're almost done and everything changes underneath you. But we didn't really
So
get too
your
much into
next
that.
step was right. So first step was understand the system. The second
Yeah,
step was find a way to slice at the manual work. Right. Here's
yeah,
the things that you already have. If we just apply that, we can reduce the manual work maybe 90%,
yeah.
and that gets you further down the road, and it would be much smaller than building something new.
Right. Maybe it buys you 6 months before you do need somebody like me. Maybe you
Mm-hmm.
don't think you maybe or even more. Maybe it buys you 2 years before you need somebody like me. If because I imagine if you copy over everything and you're manually disabling thing versus she already mentions they use taxonomies, but the thing that copies them doesn't. Well, I would modify the thing that copies them to make sure I could choose them. Then I have much smaller workload. And yeah, again, it's still copying data, sure, but
Right. Reduce user pain, and reduce the scaling problem. You haven't eliminated it. You haven't made it fully automated, but
right,
you've reduced it with you've done a minimal thing that greatly reduces the amount of effort required to scale this thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, and I kept going back to this concept. I actually brought up the one of the recent, well, not even recent at this point, but the Jonathan Stark episodes we did a while back, where we're saying if it costs you like 5 engineers to fix a bug, and that's 5 engineers, let's say they're all getting paid engineer cash,
Yeah.
150 to 200K, they're really good engineers. That's a huge expensive problem over the course of a year to fix a bug. But if it's just something someone can keep clicking, it's annoying, but every day they can click a button that runs a script that does it. They just have to keep doing it every day. And you can pay somebody 50K a year to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you've wrapped a UI around it to make it easy for them to do, that's a non-technical person to keep clicking. Then is
That's
that
not
a better
Jonathan
route?
Stark. Yes. So this is not Jonathan Stark, by the way. This is guaranteed rate.
No, we talked about it in the episode on interviewing him too. I'll point you to the timestamp.
Okay, if you say so. But yeah. This thinking came from guaranteed rate, where the company had a very blue collar assembly line thing, and it was, if you can pay a human less than it would cost to buy a machine, and you aren't sure how long you would need the machine, then you would just put another human on the line.
Yeah, I think that, and maybe also a book reference in the same episode with interviewing him, led to a conversation about that towards the end of that episode. But either way, the point still stands.
We'll put those episodes in the show notes.
Yeah, I can find it for you. The point still stands, though. If you could pay somebody less to do a simplified version of this thing, rather than like trying to spend a lot of money on expensive people to fix the root of the problem, then you can see a trade-off. How much does it cost to fix it on the root? Is it $1 million versus 50K a year? Because that might buy you plenty of time. And the argument that you want to fix something because it's sloppy and looks gross does not hold any weight, especially if it costs a lot of money. Like just especially if it just looks bad to the internals. Like a developer looks at it, it works fine. There's no reason to touch it. It's just like it needs to be dried up. Like the code looks bad and it makes me mad. That's not a good reason to spend the company's money yet.
Yet, right?
Yet.
Right, because this design is imposing its own constraints on them, right? Because you mentioned that there's there's another piece of software that federates updates or changes or whatever.
Right.
So like the design is going to increase costs along those lines, but that doesn't seem like that's their main problem right now. It's the setup and startup of onboarding a customer is the problem.
Yeah, actually, onboarding was kind of, I think, one of the terms she used. Like the onboarding is very expensive because getting somebody to understand it and then training them to do all this manual stuff is not fun. So it sounds like if we approach this, at least from that taxonomy way, we can reduce some of the weight of the onboarding and some of the weight of the manual tasks. Doesn't remove it. It's still a sloppy system, but it might buy you time, which could be very valuable. And I think that's something to really consider. If you've got plenty of time, then maybe you fix it. If you don't have plenty of time, or you're in a company and things are uncertain and you're not really sure if AI is going to replace you, like maybe you're just in an uncertain industry in general, then it's a weird decision to me to spend it on something that might take a long time to do, and by the time you do it might not be relevant anymore. It's just burning cash for the sake of feeling like you're having some momentum, seems like.
Well, that's another important piece to call out of, if you try to do a full automation, there might be fewer intermediate steps. Where what you would propose of, why don't you just use taxonomies, that gives you an earlier intermediate step, and now you've locked in those changes forever. And as you move forward, you're still going to get that benefit, right? So it's an interesting thing of, on the one hand, knocking off a slice, getting 90% reduction is something you can do faster and cheaper. So that's good. But at the same time, then it also becomes a blocker to ever fully automating, because it's like, well, it's not a big enough problem anymore to ever justify fully automating.
Yeah. So after chatting about those, she was also asking about like different technologies that might be used, or like what some, like if we were to port it, let's say we already made the decision, like what would we write it in? What are some good ideas here? And then we were just kind of spitballing what I like, for example, like recently I've seen Next and Nest.js get popularity. And then anything still, that still kind of can use React. So that's popular because React is still popular compared to
Mm,
other front end frameworks. Um, and the reason she was asking about it, I think, was just to think about like hiring people for it, because it sounded like, since they have to hire WordPress developers to work in their old system, because so much is
mm,
still tied up in WordPress, and a lot of people either are just PHP developers and they're hard to find these days because fewer and fewer people care about PHP. But WordPress in particular is, a specific, flavor of PHP, and you've got to know how WordPress uses PHP in its way, which is also kind of restricting when it comes to hiring.
right, and it's also a highly commoditized environment,
Hmm.
which is good and bad, right? So you can go to some place like Fiverr,
Yeah.
and you can find lots of WordPress developers who are located all over the world, and you can find good people who are willing to work cheap because they live in a part of the world that's lower cost of living.
Hmm.
But if you want somebody who's going to work full time for you, that becomes a problem. Like you can't just hire. It's not easy if you wanted to hire somebody who lives in the
Yeah.
Philippines per se. You could hire them through Fiverr, but a full time employee who lives in another country is a huge pain for a small business.
Right. Well, I was approaching it from the angle of, if you are going to pick a different language, then
Mm-hmm.
you have a split in people. If your WordPress people don't know Nest or React very well, they're gonna have to learn new standards. And also, you're creating new methods of deploying apps. You're increasing the complexity of your system, um, without really having done all of the fine tuning that you might can get before you need to get there. Like, you
Mm.
haven't exhausted. It's a scaling problem if you've maxed all of your methods of scaling and you still have an issue. Like if you've done horizontal scaling and vertical scaling and you're like, this is not working, this is too expensive, this is
Right.
not viable anymore. um, so there's not really much of a need, I think, to increase the complexity of a system if you haven't identified why you're copying things, not copying over, if there's a way to do taxonomies to reduce manual load. There's all these little things that you can do now to buy you more time before you say, okay, now we really hit it, because there's more juice to
Right.
squeeze here.
She wasn't ready. She hadn't done the legwork to be ready for rewriting or replacing what she had because she didn't know why she needed to replace it. I mean, she knew
Well,
the problems it had, but she didn't know why
yeah,
the technology couldn't solve them.
yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
I don't want to say that she hasn't done the legwork. I don't know if maybe she was also advised by very strongly opinionated
Mm,
developers on her team that this is the route you should go because of this is so bad practice, blah blah blah. You
that's
know,
true. Yeah, yeah. She could be
um,
very because this
right?
is
If
a
it's a
self
smaller team,
diagnosis. Yeah.
so yeah. So what I was explaining to her, like my philosophy is like whenever I even use the term like university mind, which is like we can't do anything that's not perfect, and it's got to be like the best tool for the problem, and it's got to be the cleanest code, and it never gets released. Versus the business oriented people who are like, let's just get something quick and dirty to see if this has legs. If it doesn't, let's abandon it. Writing something that you want to throw away if it doesn't work is a different style of coding. You don't
Mm-hmm.
need to be so perfect that it takes you a year to release something that you really just wanted to toy out and tease and see if this is even useful. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that concept is really hard for people who are super pedantic and super particular about code releases to get through their head. Because you don't want to polish a beautiful thing and then throw it in the dumpster. It really doesn't make any sense when it comes to just resource management. But it does make sense if you're trying to scale something and to do it in a way that you're trying to get ahead of. You can't future proof it. I hate that term. Nothing's
Yeah.
future proof. But trying to get ahead of obvious scaling problems if this thing were to take off. But you still have to wait for the data that shows it's going to take off. Um, so I was just trying to say this is my approach on your problems. Yes, if your engineers, if you trust your engineers here and they're telling you it's sloppy, they are right. But no, it doesn't mean that we should fix it right now. There's still, again, I would try to fix all the little things. People call it hacky or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, but if there's a bunch of little things that will buy me half a year to a year before I have to make a really expensive decision to hire brand new people that learn different technologies that will shift this company, will take all this time to do, all while there's other kind of stuff going on in the world when it comes to profitability of my company. I would
Yeah.
try to buy the most time to see how things shake out before I spend that kind of money.
Yeah, I love it. At the end of the day, we're here to solve business problems. We're not here to
Yeah.
make beautiful software because we love the artistry of it.
I also
There's
don't
nothing
want to take
wrong with that.
somebody's
Uh,
yeah, but I also don't want to take somebody's money and go, okay, in my head, I think this is stupid because they could run out of money because of X, Y, and Z reasons. But hey, they're willing to pay me money and whatever, I'll do whatever. I really do want them to have. I want them to come away from the relationship going, I'm glad I heard that advice. Uh, I'm glad that we didn't spend all this money doing it this way because we have a better way to kind of, understand our system, understand where we're going, and spend less money before we commit to a huge project. I think
right.
I would like that advice more than being like, yeah, I'll do anything for money. I'm a
Yeah.
mercenary.
Well, it's the doctor approach of
Yeah,
you come to me, you go to a doctor and you're like, I have all these symptoms. I think I have X. And the
yeah,
doctor's going to listen to you. He'll, look at you, order tests or what have you, and then the doctor will based on his whatever they believe or decide what solutions they're going to offer you.
yeah,
And you may not like any of them. They may disagree with you. They may say yes. They may say no. They may say, oh, well, there's a new treatment for that. We don't need this thing that you're
right.
going to do before. Now we've got this new thing. It's much better. Or
Yeah.
it's cheaper or faster or safer.
I'm not in this analogy. I'm not going to overprescribe opioids because I get a kickback from somebody.
Yes, right. Yes. And then there are
I will
doctors who
tell you
will
straight.
overprescribe
Yeah.
opioids because they get a kickback.
So instead, I'm going to be straight with you. This is what you should do as an honest person who's not, conniving to try to get the most money from you
Hire
or hooked on
Isaac.
us.
He's not an opioid. He's not a pill pusher.
I'm not a pill pusher. No.
But this is good. So, if you do call Isaac looking to hire him and his team at YGG, they will not just try and they're going to try and talk you out of it. They're going to make sure that it actually makes sense to hire them. And
Yeah.
this is how he's going to do it. He's going to ask you questions. He's going to help you diagnose the problem. And if you can't help you, he's not going to do it. And this is an example of what he does.
Indeed.
Awesome. Thank you all for listening. I'm Jeffrey Sherman.
And I'm Isaac Askew, and this is Never Rewrite.
Isaac and I are excited to announce that you can now book a one-on-one call with us through intro.co. Got a legacy system disaster and don't know where to start? We can help you find that first scene. Maybe you're struggling with a service that is collapsing under load and you just don't see any scaling options. We can walk you through a diagnosis. Just started at a new place and they have a rewrite going off the rails? We are the experts on rewrites. We will help you find a path.
If you have any kind of question about legacy systems, scaling, or rewrites, we can help you get answers in just one phone call. We're so confident that we're also offering a 100% money-back guarantee. If you don't believe that the call is valuable, just say the word and we will refund your money.
And for a limited time, we are offering to do the call for free in exchange for recording the session and using it in a future episode of the Never Rewrite podcast. You have nothing to lose and peace of mind to gain. Schedule your call today.